Would you like to do your poetry recital, eyes sewn shut?
Eyes sewn shut. There are some things that are neither angels nor demons, and by that I mean purgatorio. So now we climbed a very steep ascent in a short space of time. The path receded like a curtain of some thick black velvet. There are all sorts of mysteries in that road. We must find our way. But suppose we don't find our way? I inquired. It might be possible, he replied, to walk in the light. The light. The light they seemed was with us. To guide, quickly and easily, past a situation where all was confusion and blackness. We will find our way, he said. Then we heard and we listened to the sound in silence. By gentle gentleness, and the softest voice in the world which could be heard not so very far away. They could be heard talking about being in love, or how could one know, or how could one give up? Voices, as I had come to know so deeply, gathered round us, as if they had been part of some long-established continuous process of communication. The soft sound of our wings flapping in the breeze. Out of the shadowy folds of the earth which by degrees became familiar, with a sense that the room was full of anxious, silent beings. And yet, so little known that we had no way of telling. We were all, literally and figuratively, cut to pieces to see them. To view the poor souls and to pity their sufferings. This was the way in which we had always viewed them. And it remained the only way in which we could view them now. We had no wish for them to be unhappy. I wept silently, taking in the scene. I wept because they had lost something that I took for granted. My sight, my eyes wide open. We looked up from our verses like blindfolded captives, sent out to seek the light. But it never came. A needle and thread would be necessary for the completion of the picture, to view the poor creatures who were in misery, that of a hawk, eyes sewn shut. Eyes with tears in them, and a desire to weep, who never see the light of day. In the case of the silent poet, I felt unfair. I felt a sudden impulse to break the silence. I said, the ones who can almost see where they are going with such clarity and expression. There are some things that are so difficult, so incalculable. The words are not intelligible to the human ear. She can only speculate what they mean. But you're mistaken, aren't you? She inquired, a moment later. I'm quite capable of tears, I'm afraid, came the voice. I was looking for someone in a crowd. She had dark hair, she was barefoot, and had a note of unsparing honesty in her face. I leant a little towards her. Her tone was grave. Sutured eyes, and the lips flexible, so that they could not speak with the same relish. She said, "There are some things, you see, that simply can't be denied." We listened to her and felt her sympathy, like the sound of birds chirping in the woods. We were to be impressed by the sincerity of her words. She said, "I've not always behaved in ways which suited him. I'm a trifle unwise. I'm much more selfish. I've behaved with extreme callousness. I ought to have known better. My life's been a disaster, and I've spent the best part of it in a state of sin. I shall make every effort to make it right." She told of her life like this. She relishes in the pain. She takes pleasure in the discomforts of the crowd. She forgets their agency, the pain, the uncertainty. She rejoiced in the chance to attack the truth. "And life," she said, "is not everything that we know." She was grateful for the help of a good soul, who, for whatever reason, gave help of a friendliness to her, would find time to help her in her distress. "And you are, or were you?" she proceeded. We were now within sight of the great circular mirror. For she could merely see the reflection of her own self in the doorway. Her self-possession, her strength of will, was unalloyed. "That's the thing about which I'm afraid most," she continued, "is that it's easy to be vain. I've got my share of faults." A guide through the unknown. Part of the ascent and part of the descent. He is one of the rare people who is not afraid to tell the truth. This is a great gift and blessing for you. Like the sparrows once more, seem to come to life and be attached vaguely to the spirit of the old by the light of the new. Repentantly, my every prayer, a message that I should like, more than perhaps any other to my family. I'd much rather that you should see me now. In rude or sarcastic tones, about her family she sighed. The hopelessness of human affairs. Silent tears ran down her cheeks. She was strangely glad. Somehow, free from the bounds of ordinary life. Dear guide, I hold you close while we walk on, while very soon their voices died away, and the silence entirely filled up the air. He attempted to convey to me the truth. It stirs the waters of life to frenzy and frenzy, to exaltation and despair. The process of this spiritual journey is one of extreme disquiet and bewilderment. But the world is a very beautiful place, with the sun shining on the mountains. And, my dear poet urged, let us not be afraid of the day, but let us laugh and sing and dance together. It was a state of mind in which every moment was precious.
Okay, thank you very much. So what you just heard was a poetic voice. So I'll let you dwell on that concept. So often we're so used to just thinking of just a human. You've not been spoken to by a human. You've been spoken to by a machine. And it is going to fundamentally change the world that we live in as we do indeed start speaking to our phones, our computers, our cars. And as the technology spreads in these next few years, we'll remember this moment as when it all began. So I'm absolutely thrilled tonight to share this very special moment, but just show you how technology is changing. The AIDA project is about questioning technology. We're not here to promote it. We're not even here to promote robots. We're here to ask questions of the technology that's going forward. The 2020s is probably going to be known as the decade of huge technological change. There's three things coming into place. AI itself, machine learning itself, is changing dramatically. Supercomputers are coming in, which means vast data can be used. And also, undergraduates are training to do all this, tens of thousands. So when you get these three things together, the technology change, the hardware change, and the people who can actually use it all come together, you can imagine how in so many areas of our lives are going to be disrupted by how the technology and the efficiencies of the technology is going to start affecting. AIDA, as a project, is looking at many different areas. Tonight is about writing. As you're well aware, she's a visual artist. But actually she critiques and comments about technology generally. And as you're possibly aware, she was on the front page of the Guardian and the Times a couple of weeks ago, she was detained in Egypt because of the worry of technology. She was considered a spy. And though we might think that was very true, I can tell you it was absolutely terrifying as the person next to her, not believing what I was hearing with my ears. They were really worried about the technology. I think they were very wise to be so, because it is very, very subtle. One final thing. Ada's just finished a show at the V&A, the Museum in London, and had some works that are based on the metaverse. If you really want to scare yourself, check out the metaverse. It's the next internet that's coming. It's the 3D internet. You'll be able to walk around and inhabit. And it is, again, I think the current internet will feel a little bit like teletext did in the 80s. So if you want to check out that too, just to spruce up your day, I would just say, as I say, there's huge technological changes coming through. And so, as I say, the AIDA project is trying to highlight the reason I'm telling you these, why AIDA's doing these performances, why she's challenging the technology, is we're wanting a much bigger conversation about technology. Because in actual fact, if we don't have, as an audience, as a population, deep discussions about technology, it will just race ahead and be unbridled. And regulation and consideration, especially on the ethical side, is really, really important. And we have a real passion as a team, whole team behind AIDA, to really possibly put brakes on even, because there's huge change ahead. So thank you for coming. I hope you found this stimulating, interesting, uncanny, and all the above. But it's really great to see you all. And as I say, do track AIDA. There's quite a few shows coming through in 2022 as well. And as an artist doing artwork, she's going to be asking some pretty